This portion of DC's Soap Sanctuary was brought to you by Meow Mix. Tastes so good, cats ask for it by name. So this most recent video is gonna be just a little bit different. For this vlog video, I'll be taking you on a recent cruise that I just took during my spring break. It's on the Margaritaville at Sea, Paradise. A cruise I've been on many times before. Well, technically it's my third time. And there were some great parts about this trip and some parts not so great, which I may or may not go into. So this isn't your typical review video where I'm reviewing what's going on between Victor and Jack on Y&R. This right here, it's a bit of a different video, but stay along the ride and I'll show you what I've been up to this past week. This is my cruise vlog. Let's begin part one, shall we? Now, I've been on multiple cruises before in the past. I've been on Royal Caribbean, Carnival, MSC, and then of course, Margaritaville at Sea. One of the things I will say about Margaritaville at Sea I really enjoy is the fact that it's not as crowded of a ship as other ships I've been on. And it's a pretty much of a really affordable choice. Really easy, seamless process to get in and get off the ship. I will say that being in grad school, it's been quite the experience. Something that I always tell people all the time, that when you're in a counseling or marriage and family therapy program or social work program or get your PhD in psych, it's very different from other grad programs. That's not me negating other programs, but you're not just balancing the mental health of yourself, but that of others. You're seeing clients during internship and clinicals and practicum. So, like I said, not negating other programs, but it's just different. So therefore, taking care of yourself is just more of a priority, and it's really necessary more than anything. This trip brought up a lot of stuff for me, I would say. Kind of showed me a lot of things that have kind of been neglected during this whole entire time and process these past few months. You know, that's the thing about a vacation, is that it kind of helps you put into perspective certain aspects. And in some cases, and for some people, it can even give you the chance to just pause and reflect. Because whenever you're in the hustle and bustle of life, it never really feels good. You're just going in and out with no pause. It's probably one of the reasons why I can never live in New York City. I kind of need to be able to have my moment and be able to smile and have some kind of peace if possible. Along with a French fry or two. And I'm not saying that people in New York City can't live in peace. It's just, I'm a bit of a small city kind of guy, and I think I've accepted that about myself. 'Cause we just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go. We just ordinary people. Now, the guy singing, he was low-key bae. So was this guy, too. That's good-looking people on the ship, not gonna lie to you. They were both bae, and they didn't even know it. And now, for part two of my cruise vlog. This is where things get a little bit interesting. I can go over how I got into an argument on the bus with someone during a shore excursion. Yeah, that put a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the trip, but we'll get into that in a little bit. where our shore excursion began. I guess I should add and say that I went with my mom on this trip. So we started off here in Nassau, Bahamas. We didn't go to the second port, which is Freeport, aka Grand Bahama Island. We decided just on to go to Nassau. And this is where our shore excursion started. We got to see a nice little outside view of the governor's mansion in Nassau. Now, while the shore excursion was enjoyable, I have to admit the bus ride where I got into an argument with someone where someone was arguing with me over a seat. You know, my mother was in a wheelchair the whole time. Was a bit flat out ugly. But I tried to enjoy the rest of the excursion from that point forward. But it did definitely just put a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the days. Probably won't be doing a cruise from here now, but I'm going to try to stay positive. That's the key. I felt like at that time they were looking for a Married to Medicine, Bravo TV kind of moment, and I wasn't going to give it to them. I was going to ensure I kept it classy. Plus, I'm here to enjoy myself, not get into verbal squabbles. But I've also learned sometimes some people, when they do things with you, it really don't got nothing to do with you, and you don't want to get intertwined in other people's mess. So you got to keep that in mind. At this point in the evening, we went to the piano bar, and later on, there was a pianist who was singing some lovely music, and we got the chance to hear some of it. It was quite nice.
Of whether or not you're going to sing these next O's, but I think you should do it with me. Let's try it.
So here we're at the dining room. I actually prefer the dining room on cruise ships as opposed to the buffets because they give you really small amounts of food that are really actually satiable. And it's a little bit about the experience for me too, which I kind of appreciated. One thing I kind of realized was about my morning spiritual practices. So I got the chance to visit the chapel, which I thought was kind of interesting that this cruise ship had that, because most of them actually don't from what I know. But I realized on the ship that my morning daily spiritual practices are not optional. They must be done. Usually my day goes haywire whenever I don't do them. And you can guess what happened on Tuesday in that shore excursion. I didn't do it. But on a serious note, the reason why my daily spiritual practices are really important to me is because they keep me grounded, right? Usually throughout the day, there's a lot of stimuli that goes on. A lot of stimulation. And me meditating, reading my Bible scripture, and even doing my visualization and affirmations in the morning, they help keep me centered and grounded. But something I kind of realize is it kind of has to be a throughout the day process because there's a lot of stuff that goes on. So now I've included a nighttime routine. I've had a good morning routine for the past 7 years, but I never really thought much about the nighttime until recently. Now, during this part of the trip, I started to reflect on how hard the cast and the crew really worked to get things done on the ship. And it also made me realize that there's always something out there for everyone. I thought about the cruise director and stuff like that, and I started thinking about how do they get these jobs and how does that whole process work? I got a feeling it must be something internal. But it made me realize how there's a lot of opportunities out here. I can't say this country, can I? Because cruise ships are usually based in other countries in terms of where their business is established, but I think you guys get the whole point. But with this cruise, I actually really enjoyed it, with the exception of what happened on the Tuesday shore excursion. But for the most part, I actually really enjoyed it. It was honestly just a breath of fresh air. It wasn't crowded. I didn't feel like I was walking through the streets of New York City. Some people, if they feel like a restaurant is empty, they won't go in it because they just presume the food isn't good. For me, that's good for me. The fact that the boat was not at this full capacity what I felt, I loved it. Now, granted, while that's good for me, it's not good for them because they got to make money. You know, I find it imperative to not just wait until I finish grad school to start living life. I think a lot of people sometimes think that once I get the job or the degree or the money, I will start doing certain things. And typically what I've seen is that they usually don't because they haven't actually built up the consciousness to that point. So during this part of the cruise was the newlywed game, and I really enjoyed it. It was kind of cool seeing the couples answer questions about when they first met, their first date, and how big they think that thing is. And I'm honestly not joking. That was actually a question asked to the couples, how big they think that thing is. That thing. But anyways, guys, this about concludes my cruise vlog. of the Margaritaville at Sea Paradise. And while this might be one of my final times cruising there, I enjoyed it for the most part. So on that note, guys, I'm out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. This has been Soap Sanctuary.